Europe is emptying out. From the Balkans to the Baltics, entire countries are bleeding people. Families are packing up, young workers are vanishing, birth rates are crashing, and in 2025, it's not just a trend, it's a full-blown demographic crisis. Some nations are now losing population faster than war zones. The reason? A deadly cocktail of low wages, rising costs, and no future in sight. And it's not just rural villages, even capital cities are struggling to hold on to their talent. Engineers, nurses, builders, gone. Lured away by better pay, better living standards, and the promise of a future. From Eastern Europe to Southern Europe, these 10 countries are at the heart of the collapse. Let's start with number 10, a country whose youth are fleeing so fast it might not have a working-age population left in a generation. Before we move on, hit the like button to boost this video in the algorithm and support our work. Number 10, Albania. In Albania, it's not just a brain drain, it's a youth exodus. According to a 2025 OSW report, over 1.4 million Albanians have left the country since the early 2000s, nearly 50% of the total population. And the outflow hasn't stopped. Today, nearly 40% of Albanians aged 18 to 35 say they're actively planning to leave. The drivers? A stagnant economy, sky-high youth unemployment, and crumbling public services. Many are headed to Germany, Italy, and the UK, taking their skills, ambition, and families with them. Albania's government has tried to reverse the trend with small business grants and tax incentives, but the impact has been minimal. In some towns, entire high school graduating classes have vanished by the next year. Experts now warn that without massive economic reform, Albania may become the first European country where the majority of its young people live abroad. That's not emigration, that's evacuation. Number 9, Italy. Italy may be known for its art, wine, and ancient ruins, but behind the postcard beauty is a brewing demographic storm. According to Istat, Italy saw a record 142,000 citizens leave in 2024, a sharp 19% increase compared to the previous year. And that number is still climbing in 2025. What's driving this mass departure? 2 words: economic stagnation. Despite rising tourist numbers, Italians, especially the young and educated, are fleeing in search of better pay, cheaper housing, and stable careers. Even doctors and engineers are heading to Germany, the UK, and Canada, saying Italy offers little in return for years of education. Meanwhile, birth rates continue to plummet. Italy now has one of the oldest populations in the world, and with youth moving abroad, there's no sign of reversing the trend. Politicians talk of reforms, but years of bureaucracy and high public debt leave little room for change. The paradox? Italy remains a magnet for immigrants, even as its own citizens are disappearing. That two-way flow hides a deeper crisis, an internal brain drain that risks hollowing out the nation from within. With every plane that takes off from Milan or Rome, another chapter of Italy's future leaves with it. If things don't shift soon, Italy's crisis won't just be economic, it will be existential. Number 8, Portugal. Portugal was once hailed as Europe's quiet success story, but that story is now unraveling. In 2025, the country is grappling with a full-blown brain drain. The Portuguese government reports that over 20% of university graduates have left the country within 5 years of finishing school. Why are they leaving? Skyrocketing housing prices, low wages, and limited career prospects. The average salary in Lisbon is just $300 per month, not nearly enough when rent alone can eat up 70% of income. For young professionals, staying feels like a trap. Leaving, a lifeline. Meanwhile, industries like healthcare and tech are losing talent to Germany, France, and even Brazil. Doctors, engineers, and software developers are packing their bags, not out of protest, but pure necessity. And with fewer workers, Portugal's economy slows down even more. The government has tried to woo expats back with tax breaks and startup incentives. But without serious investment in wages and housing, the efforts fall flat. Even the tourism boom can't patch the leak. In the end, Portugal's charm may still draw millions of visitors. But for its own citizens, the dream is increasingly found abroad. Before we reveal the next country, be sure to subscribe. Your support lets us keep exploring the untold stories and sharing content that truly matters. Number 7, Croatia. Croatia is facing a silent but devastating population crisis. Despite the country's stunning coastline and EU membership, hundreds of thousands have packed their bags and left. Since joining the EU in 2013, more than 10% of Croatia's population has emigrated, mostly to Germany and Austria, in search of better-paying jobs and more stable futures. In 2025, the problem has only deepened. Croatian universities are graduating skilled professionals who never even enter the local job market. They leave immediately. According to Total Croatia News, the country is now exporting more workers than it imports, leading to severe labor shortages in healthcare, construction, and even tourism. The government has tried tax incentives and return programs, but they've barely moved the needle. The real issue? A perception that opportunities abroad are simply better. Wages in Germany are often triple what Croatians earn for the same work. Small towns are becoming ghost towns. Schools and hospitals are closing, not due to lack of funding, but because there are no students or doctors left. If this trend continues, entire regions of Croatia could become economically irrelevant within a decade. Croatia's crisis is a clear warning. Economic stability doesn't guarantee demographic survival. Without major reform, the country risks losing its most valuable resource, its people. Number 6. Lithuania. Lithuania has long struggled with a shrinking population, but in 2025 it's become a full-blown demographic emergency. According to official statistics reported by LSM, Lithuania's population has dropped to just 1.857 million, down from over 3.7 million in the early 1990s. The exodus began after the country joined the EU in 2004, but recent years have seen a surge in emigration among young professionals. The culprits? Low wages, expensive housing, and the magnetic pull of Western European job markets. Skilled Lithuanians are heading to Germany, the UK, and Scandinavia, places where their talents are in demand and salaries are dramatically higher. The result? A labor shortage back home and a graying population that's becoming harder to support. Even Lithuania's booming tech sector hasn't been enough to stem the tide. While startups are thriving, they often end up hiring talent abroad because local applicants are in short supply or have already left. With one of the fastest shrinking populations in the EU, Lithuania's future is uncertain. Without a reversal in demographic trends, the country may soon face a stark choice: import workers from abroad or face economic stagnation. Number 5. Latvia. Latvia is quietly becoming one of Europe's most endangered nations, not by war or disaster, but by vanishing people. In 2025, the country's population dropped to just 1.857 million, according to official statistics. That's down from more than 2.3 million just 3 decades ago. The culprit? An unrelenting wave of emigration driven by low wages, limited opportunities, and an aging society. Young Latvians are leaving in droves, seeking higher-paying jobs in Germany, Ireland, and Scandinavia. Many never return. At the same time, Latvia's birth rate continues to plummet, while deaths rise, creating a dangerous demographic imbalance. This isn't just about numbers, it's about a society hollowing out from within. Entire rural regions have become ghost towns. Schools are closing. Businesses can't find workers. Meanwhile, elderly residents are left behind, struggling to maintain crumbling communities. The social toll is heartbreaking. To fight back, Latvia has tried tax incentives, housing grants, and fast-tracked residency programs for foreigners. But the decline hasn't slowed. In fact, it's accelerating. Unless something drastic changes, Latvia may become the face of Europe's population collapse. Number 4. Bulgaria. Bulgaria is vanishing faster than almost any country in Europe. Since joining the EU in 2007, it has lost over 2 million people, a quarter of its entire population. That's not a typo. In 2025, the crisis reached new heights as Bulgaria's youth continued fleeing the country, driven by low wages, corruption, and a crumbling social safety net. Hospitals are short on staff, schools are shutting down, villages sit abandoned, and the capital city, Sofia, is increasingly populated by the elderly as the young pour into Germany, Spain, and the UK in search of better futures. According to recent projections, Bulgaria could lose another 1 million people by 2045 if current trends continue. The economy simply cannot sustain that kind of loss, especially when most of those leaving are working-age citizens. Government programs aimed at reversing the trend, cash bonuses for childbirth, tax breaks for returnees, startup grants, have had limited impact. The deeper issue is trust. Young Bulgarians have lost faith in their country's future, and with each passing year, that loss becomes harder to undo. Number 3. Romania. Romania's population decline isn't just a slow leak, it's a demographic hemorrhage. Since joining the EU in 2007, over 3.5 million Romanians have left the country, making it one of the fastest shrinking nations in the bloc. That's nearly 20% of the entire population gone in just under 2 decades. And it's not retirees or seasonal workers leaving. It's doctors, engineers, IT professionals, the core of Romania's skilled workforce. According to a March 2025 OSW report titled 30 Years of Crisis, the country is on track to lose an additional 1.5 million people by 2035 if current trends continue. That's despite government incentives like tax breaks, startup grants, and subsidized housing aimed at drawing citizens back. But the exodus continues, driven by higher wages and better healthcare systems abroad. What's left behind? Aging rural populations, labor shortages, and school closures in some regions. The healthcare sector is particularly hard hit, with hospitals in Bucharest and Iași struggling to retain even junior doctors. Meanwhile, Romania's fertility rate has slipped to just 1.6 children per woman, far below the EU replacement level. For many young Romanians, especially those with university degrees, the dream isn't just to leave, it's to never come back. Germany, the UK, and increasingly the Nordics have become magnets for the country's brain drain. And unless something drastic changes, Romania may find itself caught in a permanent cycle of emigration and economic stagnation. Number 2, Moldova. Moldova may be a small country, but its demographic crisis is enormous. As of 2025, the nation has lost more than 1/3 of its population since 1990. That's not just migration, that's a full-scale demographic collapse. Today, fewer than 2.5 million people remain, and more than 1 million Moldovans now live abroad, according to a January 2025 OSW report ominously titled "A Disappearing Country." This isn't just a rural phenomenon. Even in Chisinau, the capital, entire apartment blocks sit half-empty. Schools are consolidating and some villages have become ghost towns. The working-age population is shrinking so rapidly that Moldova risks losing its economic backbone altogether. Why are people leaving? Low wages, political instability, and a long-standing tug-of-war between Russia and the West that leaves citizens feeling trapped. And despite Moldova's recent steps toward EU integration, hopes of economic revival haven't yet materialized for ordinary families. Remittances from abroad now make up nearly 16% of Moldova's GDP, underscoring just how dependent the country has become on its diaspora. But that reliance also means Moldova is exporting its future. The few who remain face skyrocketing pension burdens and overstrained public services. The big question now, is there a way to reverse the tide? Or is Moldova already too far down the path of vanishing from within? Either way, the alarm bells are ringing and time is running out. Number 1, Ukraine. It's not just war, it's a mass departure. Since Russia's invasion in 2022, Ukraine has witnessed one of the largest migration waves in European history. As of mid-2025, over 4.25 million Ukrainians are still living under temporary protection across the EU, according to the European Commission. Entire cities have been depopulated, schools closed, hospitals shuttered, families separated. And even with the war now shifting into a prolonged stalemate, the return rate remains painfully low. The war destroyed not only homes and infrastructure, but economic certainty. Many who fled have found jobs, schooling, and even citizenship pathways in Poland, Germany, and beyond. Meanwhile, back home, Ukraine faces labor shortages, brain drain, and the long-term psychological toll of displacement. The country's future workforce is disappearing in real time. But it isn't just the war. For many, especially the young and educated, the EU offers more than safety, it offers a future. As reconstruction lags and corruption concerns persist, millions see little incentive to return. In fact, according to Gallup surveys, nearly 1 in 3 Ukrainians abroad say they have no intention of going back at all. This exodus poses an existential risk. Ukraine risks not only losing this war, but its next generation. No nation can rebuild without people. And unless something changes, Ukraine's biggest threat might not be military defeat. It might be demographic collapse. Europe is bleeding talent, youth, and vitality. From the bombed-out neighborhoods of Kharkiv to the empty classrooms of Bulgaria, a silent crisis is unfolding. People aren't just moving, they're disappearing. Entire communities are being hollowed out by war, wages, and worry. And the question now isn't just why they're leaving, it's whether they'll ever come back. So, what would you do if your country was vanishing? Would you stay and fight? Or would you leave for a better life? Tell us in the comments. And if you want more eye-opening stories about what's really happening around the globe, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your voice matters, just like every person in this countdown.